Data Replication on IBM Cloud Pak for Data is excited to announce support for watsonx.data, one of the fastest growing storage solutions at the forefront of the AI landscape. Our service leverages low-level coding optimizations with the engines of watsonx.data to ensure both fast and reliable data replication. To start our replication process, we will first need to set up the required assets. I've already stepped into our demos project, which contains two connection assets, one representing our source PostgreSQL connection and one representing our target watsonx.data connection. Now, if you don't have a watsonx.data connection created like I do, you can create one using new asset, connect to a data source, and either select the watsonx.data option under recents or search for it in the connectors filter on the left side. Either way, you will then be prompted to fill in the connection template properties. You can either do this manually, or you can conveniently go to the watsonx.data instance, click on Configurations, Connection Information, and then copy the JSON snippet and paste it into the import feature. This will fill in all the required credentials with the exception of the username and password fields, which you can enter manually. Before starting replication, we want some data in our source PostgreSQL database. In my SQL client, I have a set of SQL commands predefined to populate our table. I will execute those now. As you can see, our table now contains a handful of data entries, which each use a variety of data types and values. Now that we have our source database set up, we are now ready to create our replication asset. If we click New Asset, followed by Replicate Data, we will then be prompted to fill in various information. We will call the name of our replication asset Demo, and we will select Copy as the business goal. For our source options, we have our PostgreSQL database, and the data we wish to select is in our Museum Demo schema and Museum Artifacts table. For our target, now we can connect to watsonx.data, so we click that connection, and there are a variety of parameters we need to fill out. The first is catalog. We need to specify which catalog we want to replicate to. In our case, the only catalog available on our watsonx.data connection is Iceberg Data, so we will select that. Then we have a couple of variables that need not be edited for this demo. Finally, we need to specify our schema mapping. We can either leave this as default to map to that source schema or specify a different schema. Let's call this one Demo. If we click Review, we now get a summary of our replication asset with all the information we just entered. And if we click Create, we create our replication asset. Next, we are taken to the replication dashboard. The dashboard contains all the necessary tools we will need to understand the context of our replication as well as how to control it. To start the replication, I will click the Run button. Beside the Run button, we have something that indicates the state of our replication, along with a couple other buttons, including a Stop button, a Pause button, and an Edit or Delete Replication button. In the center of the diagram, we have information related to our source and target connection. If we click those, we can see various properties that we had previously filled out. And if we click Copy in the center, we can see our schema mappings. We also have listed metrics that will start to populate once our replication is running and replicating data. And finally, we can filter the events of our replication at the bottom here. These are helpful to understand what is going on in the replication. For example, if I click refresh, I can see that we are starting synchronization for the table. Eventually, we'll see that we have completed initial synchronization for the table, meaning that our data has been replicated to our target. We can validate this by going back to our watsonx.data service instance. If we click Query Workplace and expand our Iceberg Data catalog, we can now see that there is a demo schema and a Museum Artifacts table. If I select from the Museum Artifacts table, we can now see that all our data has been replicated. I will now take some time just to go through that data just to validate that it is correct. It appears to match what we have input Next, we can switch back to our PostgreSQL client and perform more inserts, updates, and deletes while the replication is running. The intent is to ensure that we have properly replicated the data while our replication is still running. As you can see here, we now have an updated table with 11 columns, and various information in the table has changed. We now wish to validate that this has been replicated. Now we can return back to our watsonx.data cluster. We can validate that the new data has been replicated. We can now see that there are 11 items, which matches what we saw in our source database. We can also see the new items we had inserted, as well as the items we had updated.